All right. Good music. Thank you, Colin. Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Field Service Live. This channel is dedicated to the field service industry. That would be any industry that drives a vehicle to a home, to a business, performs maintenance, repair, services, installations of all kinds. Companies like HVAC, plumbing, electrical, commercial, refrigeration, appliance, businesses like that are field service businesses. And it's a great business to be in. That is the business that I have been in pretty much since I got out of high school. And we developed this channel to improve that business. I hope we can help you improve yours in some little way. If you find any value in this channel, please hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. The reason why is because you will be notified of new content, but it also helps us. YouTube looks at that, and the more we get people to click on that, the more YouTube thinks we're important, and it improves our search results. So you'll be helping us out more than I can possibly tell you. As you might know, tonight we are going to talk about the rising costs of equipment, parts, materials, and even labor that has a lot of contractors talking. It's been really tough this year to get equipment, parts, materials in short supply. I mean, it's always been tough to get good people in this industry, right? Now, if that's not bad enough, it's tough to get the equipment we need, and when we're getting it, we're paying a lot for it. By the way, I want to let you know that I'm broadcasting live from my mom and dad's basement. I want to thank Mom and Dad for letting me use the basement. This is really great.
James, can you keep it quiet down there?
Oh, my gosh. Mom, stop it. You're going to ruin this thing.
You're being loud.
I'm going to move out eventually. If I could afford my own place, I would be out of here in no time. All right. Thank you, Colin. Colin's the engineer back there acting like he's my mom. My mom and dad have been gone a long time, but, maybe I would be in their basement if I could get away with it. If I knew what I knew now, I would have stayed longer and not moved out so quickly. All right, so let's get right into this. We have a special guest, which we're going to be bringing in a few moments. But before I introduce our special, awesome guest, I want to talk to you about a few things that I think are needed to cope with the high costs, rising costs, the inflation that's affecting our industry. The first thing that I'd like you to do is departmentalize your financial statements, your income statement specifically. So an income statement's like a profit and loss statement. Typically, those words are interchangeable. They typically mean the same thing. But I prefer calling it an income statement. That's where you see your company's revenue, costs of goods sold, which are going up, right? Net overhead, then net profit. It's critical that you divide your company into divisions such as commercial, residential, and within each division, you would have departments or so-called profit centers, which might include preventative maintenance, demand service, replacement add-on, indoor air quality, service agreements, etc. Once you've done that, then you need to create financial statements, income statements for each one of those departments. That is the only way that you can closely monitor each one of your departments to find out how you're doing. Now, this is important anyway, but it's especially important now where, profits have always been very thin. If you're like most companies, 2-3% net profit. If somebody's raising your price by 2 or 3%, you might not have a net profit. So it's critical to be able to look at your company's financials by department daily so that you can be aware of any problems before they become huge. Okay, so if you were writing down a to-do list, if you had a James Leichter to-do list, that would be number one, departmentalize your financials. The second thing, and you're not going to like this either because nobody wants to do it, it's inventory management. It's absolutely crucial that you create an inventory management system and stay on top of it. And so what does that mean? Well, that means everything that you plan to keep in stock, to keep in inventory, in your main warehouse, in your vehicles, is on a list. You have stocking lists. And your inventory system is all about maintaining those stocking lists, stocking those items and only those items, monitoring sales activity, and then replenishing that inventory in a timely manner. Your inventory should be set up so well that your service technicians can run 95% of their service calls without having to go to a supplier. And one of the keys to running a profitable company is to reduce unbillable time. And one of the best ways to do that is keep people out of the supply house. If you're a technician like I am, you love the supply house. It's great. You want to go there, see your friends, see the help wanted signs, get a pop, some popcorn, etc. Keep them out of there. That's really important. And that's one of the reasons why we have inventory control. Also, you can't sell what you don't have. Oftentimes you have an opportunity to make a recommended, not a mandatory, a recommended repair or upgrade. The person's interested. You find out you don't have the parts. You tell them you have to come back, and they say, no thanks. I'll call you back, maybe later. You can't sell it if you don't have it. That's another reason why inventory is so important. Also, when you are tracking inventory, and a lot of that is sales and purchasing activity, you're able to really fine-tune that stock list so that your company only stocks what it needs. It has plenty of parts that you sell a lot of. You can forecast equipment needs. What kind of air handlers are you going to need? Coils, furnaces, heat pumps, etc. You can look to your accounting system to tell you that, but you have to track inventory to have meaningful data. So there's another advantage to tracking inventory. Also, when you're entering bills, you're constantly updating your pricing. And with a few clicks of a button, depending on your software, you should be able to update your flat rate books and your pricing guides in the field immediately. So imagine all week long you've been entering bills and you notice prices are going up. At the end of Friday, you hit a button or two and you've updated everyone's app, everyone's flat rate books, all of your pricing. When your salespeople are going in and creating sales proposals or estimating or creating bids, their prices are updated. That's another reason to control inventory, to have an inventory control system in your company. Also, it helps reduce buying things you don't need because you already got one on the shelf. You've had it there for 4 years. It also helps prevent, so-called shrinkage. That's the euphemistic way of saying it disappeared and none of us know what happened to it. Inventory control helps prevent you from buying things you don't need, or it helps prevent people from just buying things that they want that you otherwise would not have authorized. All right, so that's a few things about inventory management. Let's talk about your service department. Until you departmentalize your company, you won't really know for sure where you're making money and where you're losing money, if anywhere. Most of the companies that I deal with as a consultant, and I've dealt with hundreds, maybe thousands, I see hundreds of financial statements every year. Most companies, 51% or more, lose money in service. And most don't know it because most don't have departmentalized financials. So it's really important to discover where you're making money, where you're losing money, because again, if you are going to battle this economy and battle this inflation and win, you have to have excellent financial reports. So it's really important to have those departmentalized financials so that you can see where you're making money, where you're losing it. I bet that unless you know better, you're losing money in service. The killer is labor. Labor is your profit killer. If you don't mark up labor sufficiently, there's no way to make money in service, because really service is all about labor, right? A lot of people don't like rules of thumb. A lot of my colleagues, I should say, don't like rules of thumb. My clients do. My viewers typically do. But my associates don't like it when I use rules of thumb. So if you are one of those associates of mine that hate it when I start using rules of thumb, you have to cover your ears for a minute. As a general rule of thumb, here's a litmus test for whether or not you're charging enough for labor. Your labor should be no less than 5 times what you're paying your highest paid tech. If your techs are all pretty close, then average it out times 5. That's what you should be charging for labor. Now, remember, you also have to accommodate any discounts you offer, like a 15% discount for service agreements, 10% off for military, senior citizen. You also have to make up for that loss leader diagnostic fee. $79 to get there, figure out what's wrong. You have to make up for that. So your labor gets pretty high in a hurry. Needs to be at least 5 times what you're paying your highest paid tech or your mean average. Another way to think about it is labor should never cost more than 22% of your service ticket, your invoice. Look at that service invoice, $500, $110 maximum. Your cost for labor, 22%. Don't exceed that. Another way to look at it, again, these are litmus tests. There's no substitute for doing the proper calculations. Another litmus test is your service technicians should produce, at the end of the day, at least 700 gross profit dollars for that day. So you take all their sales, without regard to sales tax, reduce how much you spent on labor and materials, whatever's left over, $700 for the day. $700 for every person day of the year. So you would have, you'd have 50 weeks, 5 days a week, 250 days, $700. That's $175,000 a year. So your technician should be bringing in $175,000 a year in gross profit dollars, not revenue, gross profit dollars. That may seem like a lot to you, and it is, but it's necessary to run what I consider to be the emergency room of the service company. Your company's emergency room is demand service. That's where Band-Aids are $6, aspirins are $5. Prices are outrageous. They seem ridiculous, but they're not, because there's a ton of overhead in running that department. Service pricing, hopefully you already flat rate. If you're not a flat rate company, you should use flat rate pricing as much as possible. That's a given. You should be increasing your service rates as often as you possibly can. As your prices are going up, you have no choice but to pass those increases on to the consumer. That's the way it is. Most everybody is. Grocery stores certainly are. Gasoline stations certainly are. So must you. You should be adjusting your prices daily, weekly at the most. Hopefully, you don't have a paper flat rate book or paper price sheets of any kind. You really want that stuff in an app. You want it in some kind of electronic form that can be dynamically updated. It can be quickly updated. You don't want to have people waiting on those updates. It's really important that you are able to push buttons and update those price sheets in a hurry. You want to try to stock up on any kind of item that has a lot of price volatility. Take advantage of any price dips. I know it's like playing the stock market, but you want to take advantage of any price dips if there are any. You want to do as much preseason ordering, assuming you're getting a discount, do as much preseason ordering as possible. But please remember, when you're doing all this ordering, only buy what you need. It's really important to build those truck stock lists first so that we're only ordering what we need. Better purchasing will help a lot. Maybe you can team up with other contractors to increase your buying power, approach suppliers, and try to negotiate better pricing. Try to take advantage of buying power. Go out of town if you need to. If you have to go out of town and pick this stuff up and bring it in or hire a truck, do so. But you may have no choice but to go out of town to get what you need to run your business. I do believe in being loyal to our vendors. Don't get me wrong. Our vendors are very important. If you're a vendor, very important to have a good relationship with you. What I'm saying is if we can't get it, we have to get it somehow. And that means maybe we go out of town. But work with your vendors, give them a chance. I know they're hearing this from everybody, but I have many clients that are trucking stuff in. I mean, they're having trucks bring stuff in to their company because they cannot get it locally. Consider also narrowing your focus in your company, specializing in certain things and not trying to do just everything so that you can limit what you have to inventory and what you have to try to order and keep on hand. So, for example, you might only offer 2 or 3 efficiencies when it comes to condensing units and heat pumps, furnaces, water heaters, things like that. You might only offer 1 or 2 brands if you can. So focus on just a few things and really specialize in that instead of having like 5 or 6 different systems, all with different efficiencies. You have to think about what can you get your hands on, and you might want to really focus on a narrow group of products, especially if you're pre-ordering and you're putting a lot of money into this stuff. You want to narrow the kinds of things that you're keeping on hand, and I don't think you'll lose a beat if you do narrow down your focus. All right, hopefully some of that is helpful. Let's go ahead and bring in our special guest. I'm really excited to have this person remoting in. He would be the first guest we've had remote in, so that's kind of cool.
We're calling him right now.
Oh, calling him. Excellent. So we're dialing right now on the rotary dial, calling him in. We're not going to use that internet.
He's got us on now.
All right.
He's got us on now.
Is that him? There he is.
There he is.
Can you hear us, Eric?
How are you doing?
How's it going?
How's it going?
Good. Got him on? All right. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Pump up my volume, Colin, just a tiny bit. Not too bad. I don't have hearing aids yet. Is that better? Yeah.
Is that better?
Perfect. Excellent.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? I don't have hearing aids yet. But I have a special announcement to make. Everybody, check it out.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
What do you think of that? My first pair of reading glasses. Yeah, my first pair of reading glasses. I don't have to have them. I can read without them, but it's really borderline, and they're helpful with computers. But there you go. There's a first. And you're the first to know it. All right, Eric. I'll get started. I appreciate your patience hanging in there with us. Thank you very much. Eric, tell everybody how to pronounce your last name.
My last name, Krizwicki.
Krizwicki. It is so nice to hear that, Krizwicki, because I'm Lichter.
I'm sure.
Right? So my whole life it was Lichter, and yours was Kizbaki or Jackie or whatever, right?
Right. Yeah.
He has a little bit of a gangster.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a guy not to mess with. Right?
Yeah.
Eric, thank you so much for coming on here. For sake of disclosure,
welcome.
Eric and I know each other. He is someone I've worked with. I've worked with his company as a coach, if you will, and so we know each other. I really think Eric has built a fantastic company. He's one of the best operators that I know of, and he's a guy who's really going places. His company is not the biggest in America, but man, if there was anybody that's going to be the next biggest company, it could be him. He's grown his company. Well, I'll let you tell the story with as much or as little detail as you want, but you basically started your company 3 years ago, went from nothing to a lot. You're pretty big now, and you did it in about 3 years, Eric. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, it's really impressive,
So, yeah.
his growth. You got started in an interesting way, and I hope you know what I'm talking about. You did some work that was kind of interesting in your company.
Yeah.
What work was that? Tell us about it.
So it was January about 4 years ago. California, our local area, legalized cannabis for indoor recreation. To grow cannabis legally. There was a handful of people that were California had went legal. There was a handful of people that were, looking to opening up these facilities. And so I actually started, my first heating and air company was supposed to be for the cannabis industry. And it was cool. It was fun. It was, something new. I was a brand new business owner. But it really was, it's a very up and down type of market, and I didn't find a lot of comfort in it starting out a new business. So I did that for about a year. We built indoor cannabis facilities, 60,000 square foot of indoor canopy, and we took care of all the heating and air for these places, from the dehumidification, CO2, humidity, AC, air conditioning and heating, carbon filters to clean the air, to keep the smell down. So that's originally how I got started that's how I started out my first business. I had worked for another heating and air company, for, I've got about 15 years of experience doing installs, residential and commercial, and then also service work. So when I went out on my own, that was kind of what I went for. And
fun, but it wasn't really like a long-term type of business. So what I did that for about a year, and then I kind of just decided to change the style of business that I had, and that's when I got into residential, and that's when I started writing heating and air. This April will be about 3 years. So.
All right, and you serve what area? You're in Redding, California. What areas do you travel to?
So yeah, I'm in Redding, California. We have about 100, and we're kind of expanding right now. Before, last year and the year before, when I first started the business, we wanted to just stay in Redding. The goal was Redding Heating and Air. We wanted to do all the service calls local. We didn't really want to go out of town. We wanted to just focus on Redding. Redding has about 90,000 people inside the city limits, and we're about 2.5 hours north of Sacramento. So in the last couple months, we've decided we wanted to expand a little bit more outside of the Redding area. So now we're traveling about 100 to 150 miles. And we have a travel charge. We live in an area that has a lot of rural area. It snows. It's, we're at the very tip of the valley. So north, east, and west from our shop, it just goes pretty much directly to mountains. We've got, a few feet of snow in the last couple weeks. We've got guys that, we've been putting snow chains on all week, traveling to some of these areas to take care of heaters. I'm actually about an hour from the shop right now in a small town called Mount Shasta, that we're doing a project up here right now, and I'm just kind of giving my guys some hands and helping out a little bit, because it is snowing, and it hasn't been the easiest project.
Wow, it's fun. It's fun though, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. It's I'm more of a construction worker. When I first started out my business, when I first got my contractor's license, starting out, I didn't have a credit card. I didn't have, accounts, set up for billing and anything like that. I would literally just, when I first met my CPA, she says, start bringing me receipts, well, I didn't really do that. I just started saving receipts, and they just became these big piles. And so at the end of the year, I took her a trash bag full of receipts, and she was just like, what's this trash bag full of receipts? And I would pay my vendors with cash. There would be times that people would send us invoices or things in the mail, and I'd get the mail, and I would just put cash back in the mail and mail it back to them. Like I didn't have a bank account. Was never set up.
Wow.
And I was just put cash in, just a few years ago, putting cash in the mail and paying bills that way. That was just the way I got paid. Working in the cannabis industry, we got paid in cash. I just paid in cash as well. I didn't, it was nothing to me. I didn't realize really, really understand what I was doing. And then when I started writing heating there, I hired a lady named Barbara, and she's like, whoa, 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 we need to put an end to this, you know?
Oh, thank goodness for Barbara.
Yes. So, you know, Barbara says, well, let's, you know, let's write some checks, you know, and I never wrote checks, right? Didn't even know what you know, how to run an iPad or a software or anything, QuickBooks. I'm a construction worker.
Yeah.
So, Barbara came in the office, got some things squared away. We got some accounts set up, went from like a cash basis business to, you know, to Aptora. I never had any type of software. I never had QuickBooks or anything. I just had a CPA that I'd give all my receipts to. And then after I brought her a whole trash bag, she said, hey, at least put them in an envelope for the month, you know, and bring them to me that way. So I started doing that. And then Barbara came on, and I got some employees, and our CPA, her firm does payroll. So she started doing payroll for us. And when Barbara came on, we had just purchased Aptora, and I thought it was this really cool thing that was going to make magic happen, you know, and it didn't make magic on the first day, but it's starting to make magic now, you know, you know, opening up the software and really learning how it works has been a challenge for me to go through all the steps and the processes, but it's definitely well worth the investment and the time that we put into it now. So when we first purchased Aptora, we had, I don't know if you remember this, James, but Erica came out to California and helped us get set up. And she had helped us. I think the first thing was just setting up our flat rate. And, you know, we had already went through Aptora and put in our information and our company name, and we put a logo in it. And that was all brand new. So when I opened it up, I didn't even have a logo. I had to create a logo just to put on the invoice.
So your company didn't have a logo at that time?
Yeah, we didn't have a logo. We didn't have anything. We didn't even have a phone. That's my cell phone.
Wow, that's awesome. You've come such a long way. It's incredible.
We, you know, and so Barbara's like, well, we need phones, you know, so we ordered a phone system, and we built a website, and we, you know, got a logo. We took a truck down and had it wrapped, you know, we put our name on it. And so anyways, one of the things that we did was came out and she helped us set up flat rate. Flat rate, we made it, I want to do all these things. And Erica's like, you can't do all these things today, you know? And I'm like, well, you know, why not? You know? So Erica's been out, I think, maybe 5 times now, 6 times. And she's been out a couple times the last, you know, couple years. She comes out a couple times a year and gives us our training and kind of helps us get to the next level. And so we set up flat rate. We made it super simple. We basically said, okay, we're going to have 8 different prices. And our flat rate book, you know, the first cost of that was, you know, we have an $89 diagnostic. And then on top of that, the first repair cost was $166. So if we went out to your house and you had a repair, it was going to cost you $166. It didn't matter what it was. And then there was kind of a couple ideas. You know, sometimes customers, oh, well, what happens if you get out there and you're just going to sell them a new filter because the filter's dirty or this or that, you know? So we kind of made some small range, you know, changes to that. And then the second one was $250, you know? So now you get into capacitors, you're starting to get into other small components that still take the same amount of time, whether you're changing out a transformer or you're changing out a capacitor. It's pretty much the same amount of time, part costs the same. We're just going to call it a flat rate price of $255. So we did 8 different levels, and that made it really simple to grow the service business. With me trying to minimize all the issues involved. So we get the flat rate book set up, and we go out and we go to, you know, we're practicing trying to use a credit card in the office with Erica, and so we create a charge to my credit card for $1, and it works. That was amazing, you know. And then here I am, Barbara's in the office, answering phones. We got a new website built, got a phone number, and we went out on the first service call, and I took the customer's credit card, and I'm like, this is awesome. I was like, oh, we got a credit card, that's amazing. And it was amazing. And then we continued on, obviously I'm heading to another call, taking another credit card, right, getting a check. I'm not getting paid cash anymore. It's weird to take a credit card or get cash at this point.
Yeah.
So we, I come across, broke down, replaced. Give the customer a quote. I drive back to the office, start typing this thing up. Barbara says, hey, Eric, let me type your quotes. I'm like, you can do that, Barbara? She's like, let me type the quotes. And so she started typing quotes. She's like, just go out there and just go sell another job. And so at that point, we hired our first technician, and that was Jesse. Jesse, he's been with the company now. He became service manager, and now he does residential sales. So he went out, he got his iPad, we took a picture of him, we put it in the system, and now he's learning how to use the the drive function, and he's clocking in and out of repairs. So we're not using Aptor at the fullest at this point, which I want to do, right? I think we're just going to do it overnight. And I've learned that it doesn't work like that, so it's a lot of work and patience. So Jesse goes out. Now he's collecting money. He's collecting credit cards. And he's like, hey, Eric, this unit's broke down. I'm like, give me the information. Like, you take the information, give it to Barbara, she types the quote, send the customer the quote, and they sign it and send it back. And now we're doing an install. So that's kind of how I got going. Was I think the first thing was setting up flat rate for us and making it very simple to hire on another technician. We created a technician binder to educate them on how we want to do a service call, our perfect service call, and gave them a little bit of training on how to use the iPad. And believe it or not, it was, to me, learning how to use the iPad was very difficult. I'm not real tech savvy. I'm a construction worker. I don't emails all day long, so
Right.
The other techs, they grasped it. They started using it, and they're like, oh, we can select this item, and it's going to be $300 or $400, new motor, condenser fan motor, it's $500, and they collect the money and they move on. So that's kind of where we went. And then ever since, every time Erica comes out, she kind of gives me a goal and says, hey, you really need to consider moving to the next step on this, and getting all these things done right away it's not possible to do. So anyways, we have 6 technicians now, a service manager, a couple dispatchers. We brought in our own payroll. So we're 100%, we do all of our own sheet metal work. We have a sheet metal shop now. We have 3 residential install crews, and we have, I'm now a commercial estimator, is what I consider myself. And I've been on a commercial job. We just landed our first school project, and it's a prevailing wage job. So we started that this week, and it's been really fun to do. But I haven't been in the field in a few months or for a while, and I've been learning about Aptor more lately than ever, and it's been super beneficial.
That school job, I think that's a variable refrigerant flow system, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're putting in a VRF system. It's like a giant, it's a Mitsubishi system. Train owns Mitsubishi now, so we're installing we're putting a brand new, we're doing a retrofit on a school, and really fun. I love working, I do construction. Haven't learned a lot about books or bookkeeping or how payroll works, or and I don't really know if I care to know everything, but I've been working, I'm sure, I don't know if you guys know, but I've been working personally with James for about the last 4 to 5 months, coaching. We work together. I call him Coach James, and every week we meet, and he gives me education on how Aptora works. So now what we're doing is, we've never really job costed anything. We, I put together an estimate. I always did it on Word, because I didn't know anything else. It's just like going back to high school and writing a report, go to Word, and
We lose the audio. I think we lost your audio.
it's in there.
Oh, there he is.
Can email their quotes, and anything is. Our texts are 100% paperless. They don't carry a paper, and getting to that point, it's been difficult, but I love it now. It's like Aptora's, like what we're doing now with Aptora has totally changed my life. I mean, I almost want to try to make my whole office paperless, but I know Barbara and our Sandy, she's our bookkeeper, and she does our payroll. She's trying to kill me if we went 100% paperless.
Right.
But I think that's what I want to do, and it might take some time, but I don't want papers laying around my desk. It's annoying to me.
Well, one thing this has to do with inventory pricing.
That's kind of a little bit about us. The big thing right now that we're trying to conquer is inventory. Erica was out, I think, in the beginning of the year, and she said, hey, you should consider, now it's time, Eric. We're 3 years into this almost. She's like, you should consider doing inventory. And I'm like, I've been wanting to do inventory since day one, but we just can't. And now that we're starting to do it, it has really became a hurdle for my company and a challenge. It's very challenging right now to get inventory done and get it set up. So in July, we hired a inventory clerk. He runs parts in our shop, and he also delivers parts and puts together packages for the guys in the field. So at this point, we have all of our inventory numbers in the software. We created names, our vendors, we put pricing in, and the only thing that we haven't done is counted anything. So we have a shop full of stuff, but we actually haven't counted how much material is sitting around.
Right.
And our goal was to do it this week, but we're thin on labor. I'm out in the field working. Dustin, that does inventory, he's like, I can't count all this stuff on myself and everyone's trucks. Like, when are they all going to be here? And it's snowing in Northern California, and people's heaters are broke, and we're trying to get that done. So there's so many different aspects to inventory and getting it done. But that's the real challenge for us. So then we can actually do job costing in the software, create our estimate, an actual estimate, and then to be able to see, how much money we actually made versus just kind of like, oh yeah, here's an invoice. We did this. We got this many man hours on it. Cool. We made 40% on the job or whatever
right.
the number is.
Yes.
But
one reason why I'm glad we're talking so much about inventory is that
the business is able to grow. And, in the last year, we've grown tremendously.
Colin, I'm not sure he's able to hear me.
Next year we're looking at doing 7 million in sales. This year we did 5, and in 2 years I want to move to 10 million in sales.
Yeah, you'll have no trouble getting there.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Just making sure you could hear me all right. So I'm glad you got into the inventory part, Eric, because I do believe that is so important when it comes to being able to handle inflation, price volatility, problems with the supply chains. Can we get this? Can we get that? How much is it going to cost? We just have to have inventory control. A lot of companies tell me we can't do inventory control. We're not big enough. We don't have enough money or whatever. But, even Ma and Pa little gas stations do inventory control. Small little hardware stores have all done inventory control. It's really just a matter of knowing how to get started with it. And I want to reemphasize something that Eric said earlier about his company. The first step is to decide what you want to have in stock. What are you going to keep in the shop? What are you going to keep in each of your vehicles? And some of your vehicles are going to be different depending on the trade that operator handles. They might do installs, they might do service, they might do both, maybe residential, maybe only commercial, that type of thing. So you put a lot of thought into that stock, and then you get it all into your office, and at some point you have to make that final count. And that's what Eric was talking about. The big challenge is to make that final count and put that into the software, whatever software you have, and then you go live with inventory tracking on Monday. And really the key to getting this to work is training your technicians and all the employees to use part numbers. We create purchase orders with part numbers. We put our part numbers on the work orders and the invoices. And now we know what we've sold, and we know what needs to be replenished. What would you say about that, Eric? Is that where you're at?
Yeah, so we, so we hired an inventory guy, and he was the manager and inventory guy at Lowe's for about 10 years. So he managed inventory. He actually, a really funny story, I got to go into it. We had an upset customer, right? Which everyone does every once in a while. And so we didn't do anything bad. It wasn't horrible. There were some fingerprints on the walls, and we could have been a little cleaner. I think the condensate didn't drain properly, so we had a little sheetrock damage. And we sent a tech over there, and the tech says, "Oh, you need to send an installer. They need to come and adjust this thing," and blah, 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 right? Well, I decided, okay, I'm going to go over there. I want to go talk to this guy. Him and his wife. They're nice people. I don't know them, but I knew they were upset with us. So I go over there and talking to this guy, and he's like, this 6'6", like real big guy, scary. And his name's Dustin. And Dustin said, I'm talking to him, and I'm telling him, hey man, we're sorry, but we want to make it right. And he's like totally cool with it. So he's mentioned a couple things about our company. He'd seen us in the community and doing other things and events. So I started talking to him. I said, hey, he's like, yeah, I'm not working anymore. And I did inventory. We had just put a post out to hire an inventory clerk like 2 days before this. And anyways, he's like, yeah, I used to manage at Lowe's. I was there for 11 or 12 years, and I managed inventory. And I was like, oh, you want a job? So anyways, sure enough, the next day he's walking in with an application and a resume, and we hired him, and he's been totally awesome. He's amazing.
That's great.
So we went from this upset customer to a great employee that he loves his job. He's having fun. He's got an amazing family, and he is doing great at his job. And so anyways, he took it on himself to create numbers, and he created all. We have a small little electrical area. He put all the item numbers in. He created numbers. He kind of almost did it like, now that I'm learning more about the chart of accounts and numbering and where it all means, he created, 1,000s are plumbing, 2,000s are electrical, 3,000s is ductwork, so he went through and put all that stuff in, and now we're pretty much ready to count it. The one thing that he didn't know was how to create. He didn't understand what a capacitor is, and he didn't understand transformers and a lot of the service fittings. A Y86 kit is a gas valve kit, so an ignition system. So he doesn't know what that is, and so my job is to now get the service parts into the system and create items for those. But other than that, our vans that we set up, and I can share that with you guys and after this, or send me an email, or I'll send it to you, James. We set up all of our vans identical. So our service vans, whether there's a van sitting there or one breaks down, not too long ago, one of our guys hit a bear with one of our vans, and the van's going to the shop and
hit a bear.
Yeah, he hit a bear, right? So all of our vans are set up exactly the same. I took those plastic U-line bins and glued them onto the shelves, and take the bin out. You can only take the part out of the bin. And so they're all set up the same. Every part is labeled, it goes into that bin, and that's where it sits. And we have a quantity number that has to always be on the shelf. I don't want to open up someone's van and not see the bin empty.
Right.
That's kind of what I've done for inventory the last 2.5 years, and it's worked awesome. And when the guys need it, they just go down to the store and they go buy it or whatever. But now getting that set up, we've got a staging area where we're now staging equipment, we're staging all the parts, and everything's organized. And now we're going to have full inventory on all of our service trucks, install trucks, and at the shop, which is like, to me, it's awesome. And Dustin's been awesome.
Yeah, it's so important to avoid ordering things just whenever you need them, because you typically pay a little more than you have to. You certainly can save money by ordering things in bulk, batch ordering. So it's really great to control your inventory the way you're doing, so that you're not just running around replenishing these vehicles on a daily basis. You can do that weekly.
Right. So bring that on a little slow at first to get him up and going. It was hard for the guys to kind of build trust in him, to call him up and say, hey, I need to get some parts delivered. But now they're using him every day. Every morning that they come in, all their parts are sitting there. Our installs are running so much smoother. We don't have anybody leaving the job sites. We don't have guys going to the supply houses. And the last thing is we just have to count it and count how many and put that into the system. So bringing on that inventory control person, we built a giant cage around our shelves. We have giant pallet racking. We have all the sizes of ductwork, all of, start collars, anything that's kept on the trucks. It's all right there. It's almost like a little mini store.
Yeah. For our viewers, let me explain that real quick. For our viewers, what we recommend that you do is create your own like mini part supply store within your building as much as you can, as much as your facility will allow. But you're basically like pretending as if you are going into the parts business. You're caging it off, walling it off, locking the doors. You have a counter, and you no longer allow people to just go in and grab whatever they want. They have to work through the warehouse manager. And that's what you're describing, Eric, right?
Right.
That's the first step to inventory management.
I mean, getting set up, it was expensive. It was, bringing on another guy, and we're sitting around the table talking in a meeting. Can the company afford another, salary for somebody every week? Can the company do this? Is it worth it? Do we really need inventory? Well, what it came down to is, now we got to build a fence, and our guy has to build the fence, and that guy's not out in the field putting air conditioners in. So it costs a lot of money to get set up. And Dustin, he spent quite a bit of money filling all the empty gaps. For instance, our most popular size of ductwork, like an 8-inch piece of duct, 25 feet long, we don't have any, but we have all these other little random sizes. So the guys are constantly going to the store to get 8-inch duct, and now they don't go. And it's taken a few months for those dollars to come back around. And now that the fence is built and things are inventoried and there's inventory numbers, and the trucks are stocked, like the guys are so much happier. They're like, this is amazing. And it has changed. I mean, in the last few months of having inventory and having that seat filled in our company has been, it's been huge.
That's awesome.
And, so getting things counted, it can't be as much as what we've already done. We just have to find the time and do it. And I think the biggest thing is just creating a system for Dustin to count things, or to bring the guys in to count, supplies. We're not going to count every small little bolt and nut or anything like that. But ductwork, fittings, anything over $10, I think needs to be counted.
Right. I tell people, just think about what's really important, and regardless of value, is it really important to have? Then you might track it. But also think about what are some things that nobody would really steal. No one's going to steal a bucket of mastic. And if they do, it's going to be one bucket and they'll never steal it again. I mean, it's not like that stuff is going to walk away. So you track things like motors and circuit boards and thermostats and contactors and things like that. But you forget the adhesives and the chemicals, most of the chemicals and the supplies, wire nuts, screws, things like that. You have to have some mechanism to know it's time to restock those, but you're not tracking those. You're not inventorying and counting those, right?
Right. So, something, when I first, a few months in July, when we went to go hire this guy, I'm like, where I want to know where every screw is and every bolt is, and I want to know exactly how many. And then you start thinking about it, and we met, people in the EGIF, people that are running on Aptora, Ferguson's and other heating and air companies, and even being out there in Kansas with you guys and meeting other companies. They just, they're like, why bolt and screw and nut? They're like, go sell an air conditioner, right? Guys, ball crew to count those things when they get out installing.
Right.
So that, hit home with me, and I'm like, yeah, we don't even have time to do this. So let's count the important things. Let's count the things that are over $10.
I wish I brought the article with me. I meant to. One of my coworkers printed out an article for me to mention that basically it talked about how pricing has gone up for most contractors in 2021 by an average of about 22%, which is really incredible to think about 22% increase to try to pass that on. In 2021, Eric, how much was availability and inflation a problem for you?
Availability has been very difficult. We kind of just decided, hey, we're a ream dealer, so we primarily sell ream and root equipment. And in our area, that's, we've got one supply house that's root, and a couple doors down, the other one's ream, and they pretty much sell more equipment in our area than anyone else. We don't have a carrier dealer where we are at, and we don't have a train dealer, but we do have availabilities to like Bryant and resourcing mini splits. And so I used every supply house possible this year to make purchases, and we paid extra sometimes, like both of those supply houses, they know that, hey, when they don't have it, they know we're going somewhere else. And sometimes they make us pay for it. And right now what we do is we pretty much, this last year, we quoted every job out specifically. We didn't really group anything together, try to use an average number or anything off the past years. We actually called the local supply houses, got a quote for the equipment, what we're going to sell, put it all together, put together an average price or something and say, okay, hey, the air conditioning system's going to be $15,000 or whatever the number is. But we searched for things, and we would sell these, package units that our supply houses didn't have, and we were buying them from companies off the internet, like, whatever, wherever you have to go to find the equipment. Like we did that. We would put guys in trucks and down to Sacramento to go get equipment, or the Bay, San Francisco, to go make sure that we're going to have equipment to get our jobs done. So we really were aggressive on finding equipment. And yes, we did pay more for sometimes to get the job done. And sometimes we kind of ate the cost, or we passed it off to the customer. But it's been very difficult. A good friend of mine, he's a sales engineer for Train, so he's primarily sells commercial equipment. He's based out of Sacramento, and Train has put out a notice saying they're at about 65% capacity for next year. So they've already have 65% of their orders already submitted for builds for next year. So if you're looking at making purchases, there's a lot of supply houses that are like this. Suppliers that they're going to be busy next year. There's going to be a point where come February or March, you're not going to be able to get equipment that you're looking for for 8 months out. There was, we special ordered things. We try to sell jobs in the summertime. If we get an air conditioning system that's running and working, like for instance, the customer will go out there, it's an older piece of equipment, it's July, we get it repaired, and we tell the customer, hey, you might consider replacing this thing. And they say, okay, that's great, let's do it. And then at that time, we kind of say, well, shoot, we don't want to do it right now. Well, what if we gave you a 5% discount and you waited until December to do the job? They're going to save $500 or maybe $1,000 on a new system. So we were pre-selling jobs in July that we're doing now that really helped.
Wow.
help the supply chain, and it helped us out a lot too. So we were able to go to our suppliers and say, we got to sign contract on this, get this equipment ordered. I think Riemann Rude was at like 25 weeks at some point. We were waiting, 6 months for equipment, and we're just now getting things. So there is a huge supply problem. Every manufacturer has it, doesn't matter. I mean, we're talking about putting in an order right now with York. Customer really wants York equipment. He's had York in the past, or I don't know why he wants York, but he likes it. It's a nice piece of equipment, and the price went up like 15% in the last. I think we submitted them the quote in August or something, and he called us the other day and says, "Hey, we want to move forward with this." And so I called the supply house, and they say, "Well, the equipment went up 15%, Eric. We can't, sell it at this price. And if you want it, it's not going to be here till March." And so I called the customer back and I'm like, "Hey, prices went up 15%. We can't do the job till March." And they just said, "Okay, let's just do it." And it creates a little bit of, it's really good to know that we have work pre-sold and equipment's coming. So the supply chain's backed up, but sell whatever you can now and get it done and move. I don't think one company is really better than the other. They all pretty much have the same warranty. They're, right now it's about availability and what you can get and who's going to get it. Like, we just want to get it installed and get paid. So we'll sell anything. We don't ever talk bad about other manufacturers or anything. It's all air conditioners are awesome to me, so we just sell them all.
Let me interject here real quick. I want to invite everybody to ask questions if they'd like to. You can type your questions in the chat window, and we'll answer those questions. And Colin, did you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to know, because I hear this problem, and I can even relate with it kind of in my world. But what does it look like in the dead heat of summer if things aren't caught up and somebody's system literally goes out and you're waiting months? What does that look? I mean, what does that look like?
Yeah.
One thing that we did, it's where we live. I think this summer it got up to like 115 degrees, and now we have snow on the ground. So it's like Arizona. To reference, we live in the second sunniest in states, so it's sunny here a lot. And you can't wait. You can't give these people, tell them. They'll just call somebody else. Hey, can you find me an air conditioner? They'll get on the internet. They'll start looking for air conditioners. They'll say, well, I found this one, and this person can get one faster. And so I think it must have been around February or March this last year. Jesse, he was my first tech, and he became he's a residential salesman now. And him and I hang out, talk all day, and we laugh. We're constantly calling each other and having fun. So I think one day we're all sitting in the office, like, what are we gonna do? We thought it was a joke, like nobody has equipment. What's going on? So we went to the supply houses. We went and drove around and went and talked to everyone. We're like, hey, what's the supply looking like for this year? Let's get some things ordered. What do we got to do? I think that day we must have bought like 40 package units or something, just kind of cruising around buying things. And we're just like, hey, let's get them.
Really?
We need them. We need these. Buy them. So we have, right now we have a lot of inventory on stock at our shop right now. Our cash flow, our cash on hand has went way down. One thing that we're talking about doing is reaching out to our local bank and saying, hey, we want to keep some more inventory on stock. Do you guys mind giving us a line of credit? I don't have a line of credit with the bank. So, we've got a couple $100,000 in inventory sitting here now when that money used to be in the bank. So cash on hand and inventory it is a true challenge for me, and especially for the growth that I'm going through. I feel like sometimes I'm just getting squeezed. But it's really nice to know that, we already paid for this equipment. It's sitting here, and we have really good cash flow now. So,
if
I don't know
if you don't spend money on this equipment, you're just prolonging the inevitable, and that's death. A company cannot go on forever not having equipment and parts. They're going to have to find a way to buy this stuff in advance and get it in any way they possibly can. Wouldn't you agree?
Right. Our supplier, you couldn't get a furnace. You could get in the middle of summer, you can get a condenser in a 4-ton, and that's the most popular condenser in our local area. There's no 4-ton condensers available, so we're buy them on the internet. Go to San Francisco. There's other suppliers that are out there that aren't we don't have a Ferguson in our town. Our closest Ferguson's a couple 100 miles away, and they have a lot of air conditioners. So we really started outsourcing things. If you can find equipment and figure out a way to get it on your shelves and keep it, and maybe you work out a deal with your supplier. Our local supplier right now, they said, hey, Eric, if you want to prepay for this stuff for next year, we pre-bought some equipment for next year. They're even allowing us to keep it in their warehouse. So when we want to pull it, they're just going to deliver it right to the job site for us. They are, everyone's trying to keep more inventory in. The economy is, people are just spending money. I think in 2021, I read this article, 50-something% of the American population refinanced their homes in 2021. So they brought out, people bring out $50,000, $100,000 out of their homes. They want a new air conditioner system. We're knocking on their door. If you don't have the equipment, you're just you have to figure it out. You got to have equipment.
Yeah, you got to figure it out. You got to figure it out. It's like the automotive industry. If you don't have cars to sell, then you have nothing. People want to buy cars, and if you don't have a car to sell, then you don't really have too many choices. Same with contractors. Whatever you do for a living, it could be roofing, it could be HVAC. You got to get that equipment somehow. Now, I have one person that I know quite well who their company spent days on the phone and bought 2 truckloads, 18-wheeler truckloads full of equipment from 2 different states, 3 states away, and had it shipped into them. They hired a company to go pick it up and fill these trucks and bring it in. Now, I know everybody can't do that, but that shows you the extent that you have to go to get equipment.
We do have a question, by the way.
Oh, good.
He's asking, are costs expected to keep rising? And given enough warehouse space, is it wise to possibly purchase AC units at today's cost to basically stop from getting hit in the future?
Yeah, so that's almost like asking me a stock question,
like stock. Yeah.
Yeah, should I buy the stock today? And nobody could lose money faster than me in the stock market, by the way. If you just did everything I didn't do, you'd make a fortune. So keep that in mind when I tell you my answer. I think that, yes, you should. I think that whatever money you can scrape together, mother-in-law, whatever it takes, borrow from anybody if you have to, but buy equipment that you are darn sure you're going to sell. And like Eric said, you're going to sell 4-ton condensers all day long. I would buy that as soon as I could get my hands on it. But I'm curious, Eric, what you would say.
Yeah, I think buying equipment's extremely important. It's fun to be, right now we have equipment and there's some things that we're missing, but we can pretty much cover all the gaps. And so we're out there, it's like Christmas, like going through everything, wondering like, what are we going to sell today? You know, because all the supply houses, they don't have everything. I think, one thing the steel industry has came down. We buy flat stock steel for the sheet metal shop now. And prices of steel are coming down. They have dropped, but we are still continuously seeing price increases from our suppliers. I think it's really important, right now it's been really, we have been able, using Aptora for the last couple of years, we know what we're selling, so we can kind of figure out now, how many package units we sold last year, so, and I didn't have that number a couple of years ago, and how many package units are we going to sell next year? So it's, I think, very important. You got to have the stuff. We're, going to work on getting a line of credit. I pretty much would like to have all the equipment that I think I'm going to sell beginning of summer, before summer hits. We're going to have everything that we have sitting at our shop or in a warehouse that we're going to sell, and we're going to push to sell all those products, and not have to worry about it. So if Reem's saying, hey, we're 6 months out right now, well, that's June for us, and we're going to have our first 100-degree day in June, and we better have equipment then to sell jobs. I mean, I'm not going to tell one of my employees, oh, sorry, today you're not going to get paid because the equipment's not here. Like, they worked hard all year long, and to have to take a day off because they don't have the equipment for their job, like, it goes both ways, in my opinion. So we do everything that we possibly can to get equipment, to have it. I think the prices are going to continue to go up. Steel's going down, but the labor capacity that these companies have, and the demand that we have on them right now to get equipment out of their warehouse, they're not going to lower their prices. They don't care. I wouldn't either. Raise my prices.
Right. Yeah. I think that it's also a good idea. For example, you bought that plasma cutter. It's a good idea to make investments like that, so that you ultimately are saving yourself money, and you're saving yourself that precious labor time by investing in tools like that. And if you watched our last episode where we talked with the CPA about creating tax deductions and the power of putting your capital to work, you invest $80,000 in a piece of equipment, you've created an $80,000 tax deduction. If 35% of your money goes in taxes, then you're getting a third of that back immediately, and then you're saving money every time you use that piece of equipment. So it's a no-brainer. You know how I feel about that.
Yeah. So, one thing that this last year is one thing that we did is we pretty much brought everything in-house. We brought payroll in-house. Now we're bringing inventory in-house, and now we've got a sheet metal shop that we're in-house. It's allowed the company to be very maneuverable. We've got a guy that, when an installer calls up and says, hey, I need this custom drain pan or a hat channel or something that's something out of the ordinary, we can make it right then, and get it out to the job, get it installed, collect money, and having that sheet metal shop. I mean, we have one full-time guy that works in the sheet metal shop full-time, and now an inventory guy that works full-time. And, Jeff can say, hey, Dustin, I got this pan made or these plenums made. Get them out there. Let's go. So throw them in a truck where they're on their way. The guys come in the morning. They've got everything that they need. The equipment's sitting there. Like, it's changed a lot. The business has grown a lot. It's been a ton of hard work. I never really understood, like, how hard it was going to be to start a business, and we have to like knock at it every single day. And Aptora has been extremely difficult for me as an individual, just being a construction worker. I don't, but learning it and learning the abilities and the power and the tools that Aptora has to offer me, I'm more interested in learning that now. It's made my techs are having a better life because they're learning to use it better. My installers they all are running on iPads now. So, the customers, it sends them a text message when the customers, when they start driving, says your technician is en route. Like all these little things that we're learning to use Aptora with, it's changed the way my business does business.
Well, now you're mentioning the software program that you bought. I'll tell anybody watching this, buy any software you want. Just use it to its full extent. Put the time in to learn how to use it and use it to its full extent, because it's critical to have all of these advantages when it's tough to get people and it's tough to get equipment and everything just keeps getting more expensive, including the people, by the way. Eric, I wanted to ask you something about selling jobs. Now, you pass on these higher costs to your clients, your customers, of course. How much has that hurt your company's ability to make the sale?
It hasn't. I don't think it has.
It has not.
I don't think it.
Yeah, and I'm hearing that from a lot of people, by the way. Now, look, your company could be different. If you're watching this and you have a different experience, I respect that and appreciate it. What I'm hearing from most people is that it doesn't make a difference. They are selling the jobs because people have to buy it. They don't have much of a choice. So they're spending more money, but it really isn't hurting sales for most of the companies, at least the vast majority that I'm talking to. So pass those higher costs on. Don't eat them. You're too small. All you business owners out there, unless you're filthy stinking rich, you're too darn small to be eating these costs. Make sure that you're passing them on as fast as you can. When you write sales proposals, by the way, I would put a 10-day expiration on it, and or I would have language in there that talks about what would happen if your prices go up. What will you do? You'll pass those on. They have the option of declining, but you'll pass those on at your cost, for example. But put 10-day expirations on your proposals. Don't write a proposal that has no expiration date. Even a 30-day expiration date, who knows what's going to happen in 30 days, right, Eric?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the supply houses, they put like the quote's only good for today on some things.
Really?
You're like, what?
Today, yeah. Yeah.
When you're buying steel, and copper lately, they're like, this price is good for today. We stocked up on everything. And I didn't really want to do it at first, and I kind of let my inventory guy handle it, and he started ordering things. And I'm like, wow, we just spent another $40,000 on copper,
Yeah.
And he's like, well, we need to have it. And I'm like, not $40,000 worth, But then when you got all the units sitting there too, and equipment and jobs sold, and it's already, it's going to be going out the door anyways. Keeps the guys from going to the supply house and hanging out and eating donuts in the morning. It's been well worth it, And now all that copper's sold and it's gone. We already, we're installing it. So.
Hey, you recognize that? Anybody wants to check out Eric's company's website? It's Redding, Redding, heatingair.com. He's got one of the best websites around. He put a lot of time and energy into designing it. He hired a fantastic company. I think it's worth checking out. His website looks really good. Maybe you'll get some ideas for your own. Very, very good marketing company. Eric knows a lot about marketing, does a really good job with that. I think the last question I wanted to ask you, unless anybody out there has any final questions, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about next year? You had a really good year, and you just told us that all this trouble, while it was a lot of work, it didn't cause you to miss any sales. You actually grew a lot. What do you think's going to happen next year? What do you think the biggest challenges are for your company next year?
Last year we had, I think in January we did, right now we're trying to, I never really created a budget before, right? So creating a budget and a plan for next year, leads, how many leads do we need and when are we going to get them and how much money and revenue are we going to do? we want to do the $7 million in revenue for next sales next year. How are we going to do that? In last January and February, those were like our best months. We had this really interesting project that we did. It was an Indian reservation that had a bunch of homes on it that were already pre-built, and they got state funding to put in 5-zone mini splits in each house, and we did like 35 of these houses, right?
Oh, cool.
And so January and February was amazing, and now I'm like, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna beat that January? This January, how are we gonna beat those numbers? And I think is what's happened is we've brought on another residential install team. We're upping our capacity. I think we're going to beat those numbers that we did last January and February, and those were great months for us. In planning it, I think what's huge is the EGIA is a tremendous amount of resources and tools. I have everyone in my office running on EGIA and watching the videos and doing the tests. Where we don't miss a video. We watch them all, depending on what department it is. Our team's more knowledgeable. They're ready. They're excited for the new year, I think. And the planning and how many leads we're going to need to get to where we want is the big picture of things. And I think it's been really fun to kind of like go down that avenue to try to figure out, like, before I was just like, I needed like $20 to like get dinner, and now we're trying to set goals and plan and how much revenue we're going to do in each month and how much money we have to spend on marketing and how many leads we need. And it's just a different aspect of business, and it's been really fun for me to learn.
And I should put a plug in for EGIA. That's EGIA.org. It's a great organization. It's all about helping the contractor. The nice thing about EGIA is they are a not-for-profit organization, so they have that moral high ground. They're not there to make money. They're there to charge only what they have to stay around, but their goal is to improve the field service industry, the contracting industry. I would encourage anyone to check out EGIA. I know Eric would definitely recommend them. Colin, did we have any questions?
Yeah, we did have another that came in. Someone saying that staffing in the area is very difficult right now. Are you experiencing the same problem? If so, what are you doing to get enough staff for the growth and the addition, to keep going? Are you finding that problem? This is for Eric, yes.
Yeah, Eric, please address that.
We're constantly staffing has been very difficult. It's been very difficult since day one. We have a very good incentive for our employees. We pay 100% of their health insurance. We do a 4% matching retirement program. They have paid holidays, paid vacations. We pretty much have created the best package in our local area for employees, and it's brought on a lot of really good guys that are like, hey, I really want 100% of my health insurance paid. And when I originally started the business, I didn't have health insurance for myself. And so I sat down and with my insurance agent and said, hey, I need to get health insurance. And they said, if I'm going to get health insurance for myself, I'm going to buy it for my guys. If they walk through the door every morning and they work hard and they do good, they put their phones down, they want to generate revenue, let's give them health insurance. And Jesse, for instance, he had been a tech for about 15 years. I think he went to trade school and he was 20, so he was like 35 at the time. And he was getting ready to have a baby. And he saw our ad on social media, 100% health insurance paid. And he called me right up and said, hey, I want to come to work. And I'm like, okay, I don't know who this guy is, right? Just Jesse, right? And he's turned out to be an amazing employee. And he's brought a lot to the table and he's willing to learn. So some of those things, the benefits is huge. We are very community involved. any marketing, anything that we do for marketing, we've now put a now hiring logo on that. We put now hiring magnets on all of our vans, 3 sides. We put these giant magnets on the vans that just say now hiring. We and I think in about, it must have been September, we put a $10,000 sign-on bonus out there, and that was not very successful for us. We didn't actually pay a $10,000 bonus, and we could never find the guy that would want to come over for $10,000, and I would have paid the $10,000. We had some guys that had less skills that had came on. I think we brought a new guy on that had been with another company for a couple of years, and we gave him like $1,000. And a couple guys got a couple $1,000. But we were really looking for like a journeyman installer that does residential, that's like top notch, and we couldn't find that person for $10,000. Don't get me wrong, the installers that we do have do good work. But every marketing thing that we do, it has a now hiring sign on it. We do events. I think tomorrow we're throwing a New Year's Eve party. Not personally, we partnered with another foundation, a nonprofit in town. It's called Turtle Bay, and they're having a New Year's Eve party, and we are supplying it's like outdoors, and we are supplying heaters and everything for this thing. So we're gonna have now hiring signs all over that place. It's hard to find.
That's unique. That's unique. Sorry to interrupt you, but I want to make sure I reiterate that for everybody. The question is, how do you find people? Well, one thing you do is a lot of community involvement marketing, and while you're at it, you're telling the whole community we're hiring, which means we're growing, we're healthy, but it also gets the word out in a very unique way that you are hiring, and people will see your company at its best when you are sponsoring a little league team or a not-for-profit and the various things you do. They're seeing your company at its very best, and they're saying, that's the kind of company that I want to work for. Or the spouse is saying, maybe that's the kind of company that you should work for instead of the mean person that you work for currently. So I think that the point Eric's making needs to be reiterated. A lot of your marketing should be community involvement, and it should be just wrapped in the help wanted theme. We're hiring.
And what about keeping your current employees? Are you able to do that?
Yeah, our employees are pretty happy. At least I think. Everyone has a good day and a bad day, or whatever, if you believe in bad days. But yeah, everyone's staying. They don't want to go anywhere else. This is the third time, so we were actually voted best of the North State. I just found out for the third time in a row. It's our second and a half years worth of business. So that we went through 3 competitions now. We were voted the best all 3 years, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But our thing is just community involvement. People know we're out there. They see our trucks everywhere. They're like, what's going on? And the guys that are out there in the field, a lot of our employees that we've gotten have just walked in the door and said, hey, I want to come to work here. The supply houses know, everyone knows, like, if you're unhappy where you're at, they're coming to work here because they see what we're doing.
And by the way, that is not the same thing as stealing or poaching employees. When people walk through your door because they heard that you are the place to work for, that's not the same thing. That is just offering an alternative that people are with free will can take advantage of.
When you get an employee that says, hey, I want my health insurance paid, and as a business owner you tell them no, and they can go right down the road and get 100% of their health insurance paid, like, you pick, what are you going to do? Not have health insurance?
Right.
Or go work for somebody that wants to give that to you?
Yeah.
Another thing that we did this last few months is we ran a national ad with a company that does Facebook recruiting. If you get on like HVAC members, they've got like texts and owners and advice and trainings and different things on Facebook groups, right? We ran an ad nationwide. We started in our local area. It wasn't successful. We moved to the Western United States. We hit Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Idaho, I think Montana, a good chunk of the Western area. We did have a few phone calls, but nobody wanted to really make the jump, and we couldn't. It was really hard for us to get anybody to come over, and we interviewed with a few people. Our service manager, he called the office. One thing is just having a really good website. He called. He was moving to the area. He was from Seattle. Did tons of residential work, did tons of commercial. And he said that he wanted to come and he wanted to take on a service management position. And he found us on Google, called us on our website. We weren't even advertising. And I think he talked and interviewed with another company in the local area. And he's flat out just said, I want to work for this company. You guys have a way better program and a better system. And the offer was on the table for both of us. He could have went anywhere, and he simply just shows, hey, I'm coming to work for this company. And that's how we filled our service manager position.
Everybody's sick. Everybody's got a cold. Well, I've really appreciated having you on here, Eric, and sharing personal details about your company. It's been, for me, it's been a lot of fun seeing you guys grow, and I've been very impressed and excited to have you on here so that you could help share that with us. I think the one thing that I want to point out to everybody is just how important it is to develop systems in your company, lay the foundation like Eric has of good accounting software, good bookkeeping practices, inventory management, benefits, the way you pay people, the way you handle people, your sales process, your quality standards. You have to have that foundation to be able to weather this or any other situation that we're going to be facing, and this won't be the last. But I think that's really the important part is it takes a lot of planning, and it's not always fun, but it's crucial, and I know that's a lot of your success, isn't it, Eric? All right, well, I want to say thank you to everybody that's been on here with us. I hope you will hit that subscribe button, that notification bell. I hope to see you next Thursday night. We want to be doing these every Thursday night, and we hope to have as many live participants as we can, but be sure to check out those recordings. Thank you very much. Again, I'm James Leichter for Field Service Live. Hope to see you next time. Good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.